pleasant speech, and this is one of the highest blessings. So I think that it is very pragmatic that every one of us should try to have the best possible education and best possible vocational training or attainment of skill, because basically no one owes us a living. We have all to earn a living, and we all have to provide for our loved ones. And traditionally, we provide for one generation above and one generation below. So it's not easy to do that. But we try our best. And to do that, of course, you must have the highest possible education. And as I said, professional training in whichever field you had chosen to be well trained, to be disciplined. That would be ideal. And so this is important.
Hi. Yes.
The other thing, of course, in the Sigalovada Sutta, the Buddha gave us some duties. And again, to fulfill these duties, you need to have the means to earn a living, the means to provide. And among these duties, the Buddha listed for us, of course, duties to our parents, because to support them and nurture them in their old age, to our teachers, to our families, spouse and children, including friends and relatives. Be generous, be kind in words. Brother Ju Sing in JB has been most generous with food in this lockdown that we are having now. He has been very generously feeding us. And of course, to the people who are walking the path very seriously, we support them. And to those who work for us, we have to be fair to them, to be generous, and to give them appropriate returns for their contribution. So all this means basically that if you are a young person and you have to fulfill this, it would mean that you must have some skill. You must have some marketable skill for which you can earn a living, for which you can provide. As I had repeatedly shared many a times to the youths, there is absolutely nothing wrong with earning a decent living, nothing wrong with earning wealth. In fact, the Buddha called it righteous wealth. Wealth earned without breaking the 5 precepts, by the strength of your arm and the sweat of your brow. The Buddha called that righteous wealth. That is wealth, the Buddha said, that you have earned righteously without harming anybody, and you should use it well. So that's the very foundation in which I'm going to share with regards to this sharing on hopes and dreams. So you need to plan, you need to strategize, and then you say, okay, I have hope that I want to be something, or I have dreams that I want to be something. So, well, these are goals, and yes, they are an important skillful means. They are an important tool for us, but you must always remember it is a skillful means. But we must also, at the same time, as students of the Buddha Dharma, realize that life is a constant flux, that life is changing all the time. It is ceaselessly changing. And whatever we think that we must attain or become or do is only a thought or a concept that we, at this time, based on our present circumstances, based on our present maturity of thinking, can do. So as circumstances change, as our environment changes, even our own thinking change, even these goals may have to be modified. So you cannot be too overly stuck or attached to a goal, because that goal, while being very realistic at this point in time, may not be very realistic a year from now, or even 6 months from now, or even 3 months from now. Well, let's just give an example of how very rapid changes can affect our goal or our aim of our dream. So you might say, I want to dream of opening a inbound tour agency because Singapore has lots of tourists, etc. But given the present circumstances, at least for the next 1 to 2 years, you probably have to have a different goal or another form of earning a living because in the next 1 to 2 years, the circumstances have changed dramatically. So you haven't failed. It's just that the circumstances have changed. And being a student of the Buddha Dharma, we are always taught that things are beyond our control in many, many ways because there are so many things around us which are beyond our control. And these things will affect us. So we have to be flexible to adapt to the environment. Because after all, life is like a river. It is ceaselessly flowing. The water is never the same. Sometimes it's calm, sometimes it's very turbulent. And the last few months have been really the rapids. Very, very turbulent. Everything has changed. And so now we have to adapt to that change. If not, you're going to suffer. So while we need to have goals, while we need to have ambitions so that we have a direction for us, we must realize that that goal, that ambition, that direction is only applicable to at the point where we made it, the circumstances that we made it. And circumstances outside, circumstances interior to us will both change. And so, yes, you may need to adapt. So you can plan, you can hope, you can dream, but you must also be ready to wake up and change direction at any time. So we mustn't give these goals of career or status or accomplishment a greater significance than what they deserve. They, after all, merely serve as a skillful means for us to have a direction. So for example, last time I used to always ask my students who have graduated and are working, oh, have you got your postgrad qualification? Have you got this? Have you got that? Oh, have you got your hospital appointment? Have you got your registrarship? Have you got your consultantship, etc., etc.? Now I no longer ask that question. Now I only ask a very simple question of, are you happy? Because I think that that is more important than all the other questions. If you are happy, I think that's the most important accomplishment, because you can be a registrar and be miserable. You can be a consultant and be absolutely miserable. You could have passed or not passed your postgrad exams and you could be still either happy or miserable. So the more important thing is, are you happy? Because ultimately, whether at the mundane level or at the supra-mundane level, we all want happiness. So it is perfectly okay, even if we had set a goal and then fail to accomplish that goal, because you must remember circumstances may have changed. So while you even past, you want a great blessing, they mentioned that we do not get what we want. In fact, and so please,
everybody is thinking my dream should be fulfilled. My blessing is dream of happiness. Keep your eyes, everything. See, whatever you do in your lives, I'm sure each one of you are going to do so many things. But whatever you do is very important, relevant to the world in which we are living. Hello? Is it very important? Is it relevant? Suppose you say, in next 5 years I want to be. In those 25 years, the entire situation changes. But still going that way because you want to get your goal. So everybody thinking my dream. Let me tell you what's my blessing. My blessing to you is, may your dreams not be fulfilled. Let something that you could not in your life happen to you. Because what can you dream of? Only a little exaggeration of what you already know, isn't it so? Can you dream of something totally, absolutely new, which is not in your experience? So you're ruling out all the possibilities of life simply because you have set a goal. Because somebody is telling you, you must be goal-oriented. No, you don't be goal-oriented. Constantly work on how to enhance this piece of life. It is like, You have a Maruti car, nothing wrong with it. It's a good car to go home and go to the office. But you want to race on the F1 track. Well, four wheels are going to go in four different directions. If you want to go on that kind of speed, you don't dream. You build the machine, isn't it? Similarly, if you really want to go somewhere in your life, you build this one. Don't worry about the damn goal. We don't know what opportunities the world will open up tomorrow morning. How do you know? Just make yourself into a fantastic human being. You will see life opens up in a million different ways. But if you have one silly little dream and you work for it all your life, what is the point of that? So may your dreams not come true. Let something that you could not dream of happen to you. Don't waste your life dreaming. Keep your eyes and every damn thing that you have open and look. There are a million doorways.
So this is one example. While I will not say that you completely do not have any goals, you must have a goal. But what I would say is do not be overly attached to your goal. And what Sadhguru had pointed out is, in a sense, very true, because you can only dream or hope or aim at something in which you are aware of now. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, the world may have changed. I mean, okay, let me think of one example. I was just thinking, oh, so many children say, I want to be a pilot, I want to be a pilot, I want to be a pilot. Okay, pilot earns well. Most airlines are looking for pilot. But that was before last 3 months, you know. Now, if you are a pilot, you might you probably cannot even pay your rent. So at this point in time, it will be actually more realistic for you to be thinking of something that delivers on the internet or something that delivers by courier service, and you probably have a much better living than to be a pilot, because you may not even be able to feed your family if you're a pilot now. If you are a pilot of 30 years, then no problem. You're a pilot of 3 years and you bought a condominium, now you're in big serious trouble. So this is an example of how the world has changed very rapidly. And it is good for us to have a goal-oriented or direction in which we want to pursue our life, our career, but we have to be flexible. We cannot be so job on that one thing that if I don't get that one thing, die. You know, it's like, you know, the old days the Japanese would tie that thing on their head, and then you either get that goal or you commit harakiri. Well, that's not being too flexible, not being too realistic of the realities of life. Okay, so many aspects of our life, both good and bad, are actually not the problem. The problem is our attitude. How we deal with it, how we adapt to it is more important. So life just is. It flows on whether you get or you do not get or fail to get what you want. And people ask me about the COVID-19 pandemic. It's just life. Pandemics will occur every 100 years, every 20, 30 years. It's just life. It's not whether you like it or you don't like it, or why do we have it. It's just life. It is like that. 是这样的了. You don't like it, also 也是这样的了. You like it, also 是这样的了. It is nature. Just like earthquakes move the earth because plates move. All right. So sometimes you have to be very careful of what you wish for, because what you wish for, while highly applicable now and highly desirable now, may not be too desirable a month from now. And another good example is, you have wished for a long holiday. You know, how I wish I had a long holiday. Well, in Malaysia, we have 2 months of holiday and half the country is dying because the economy is dying. So now people, everyone, on Labor Day yesterday, their aim was to get back to work. Labor Day, a holiday, and everybody wants to get back to work. So we have to be careful what we dream for, because what we dream for is very limited, within very narrow vision. But of course, we mustn't give up hope. Tragedy should be utilized as a source of strength. And no matter what sort of difficulties, how painful the experience is, do not lose hope. Why do we not lose hope? It's because it too will pass. No matter how bad, it too will pass. And another one, good, bad, Who knows? We don't know, honestly. I don't have to repeat the story of the king who got his finger amputated. I'm sure every one of you here is familiar with that story. But to the king at the moment where he lost his finger, it was a disaster. But subsequently, he realized that that saved his life. So there are many things in life that we are not aware of. And while a goal or a dream is a conceptual target, you are not a failure if you do not reach that target. Many a times, not reaching that target is a blessing. And I'll show you again a clip here to illustrate what I mean. If I just move this out of the way.
Once upon a time, there was a Chinese farmer who lost a horse, ran away. And all the neighbors came around that evening and said, "That's too bad." And he said, "Maybe." The next day, the horse came back and brought 7 wild horses with it. And all the neighbors came around and said, "Why, that's great, isn't it?" And he said, "Maybe." The next day, his son was attempting to tame one of these horses and was riding it, and broke his leg. All the neighbors came round in the evening and said, "Well, that's too bad, isn't it?" The farmer said, "Maybe." And the next day, the conscription officers came around looking for people for the army. They rejected his son because he had a broken leg. And all the neighbors came round that evening and said, "Isn't that wonderful?" And he said, "Maybe." The whole process of nature is an integrated process of immense complexity. And it is really impossible to tell whether anything that happens in it is good or bad, because you never know what will be the consequences of the misfortune, or you never know what will be the consequences of good fortune.
Okay, so that's a good illustration. So again, I repeat that while yes, we have a goal, we have a dream, we have an ambition that I want to be this, I want to be CEO, I want to be a consultant, this, that. Yes, that's a good goal for us to set our direction of our studies, etc., etc. Please remember that it's a conceptual target. If you get it, okay, good. If you don't get it, it's not the end of your life. And even if you get it, remember, getting it also would mean it comes with other things. And let me give you an example. My medical students, now they think they are suffering because they are studying. I give them lots of homework. I scold them. I wall up them, etc., etc., etc. And then they think how nice and how good it will be when I graduate. And then, of course, they graduate. And then when they graduate, they're so happy and they're celebrating. And they say how nice it is when I start working. And then when they start working, by the 3rd month, they realize it's an absolute disaster. And they tell themselves, why did I study medicine? I should have become an accountant, or I should have become an engineer or something else. And I'm sure the engineers and the accountants are also saying the same thing. Because no matter what that aim, that target is, once you have achieved it, it too, like a hamper, has its good and bad points. So like this story of the farmer is a good story. Life is much more complex than what we think it is. So even if the goals are accomplished for a temporary duration of time, there's an increase in the self-esteem. I'm a doctor. I am so great. I earned my MBBS. But I can assure you it is as temporary as dew drop on the leaf. And as soon as you start working, you know what I mean. So new issues will arise from that accomplishment. And again, you realize that life just is. It flows on. It just is. So you might have a temporary ego boost or a sense of accomplishment. but this is just temporary. Now, also realize that while you say, I want to be happy when I become that, I will be happy when I become that, etc., etc. I think that many of us do not realize that what you already have right now, millions of people will die for that. The comfort, the food, the accommodations that we already have right now as we speak. Many people, for many people, that is a dream. You have already reached a dream of so many other people, just as sometimes we don't realize it. Now, of course, having a skill is important, and knowing that you've got a skill gives you confidence. But herein, from the Dharma viewpoint, there's also something you've got to be a bit careful of. Do not have that I being too big, because then that is ego. All right? That I is just an ever-changing reality too. So for us who are students of the Buddha Dharma, take a moment of self-reflection. Always stay in front of this curve. Always realize that you are just a self-created ego. Remind ourselves constantly that everything is changing. Yes, we have got our goals and our aims, but these goals, these aims, and even life itself is in a flux, and we've got to adapt ourselves to this to the best of our ability. So, take-home message: if you do not meet your goal, do not think you have failed. So, depression in failure must never go to your heart. And if you do reach your goal, that success, that ego must not go to your brain, illustrated by these two extremes here. Okay? Sometimes your hopes and your dreams are really a prison. Sometimes I hope you realize that in throwing a hope and throwing a dream, you are literally walking out of a prison. If you're constantly searching for happiness outside of yourself, and you say, I will only be happy when I become that, then you will never truly be happy. For even when you become that, you will still be looking for something else. So I hope that you realize that while you are having hopes and dreams of being somebody in the future or doing something in the future, you are equally capable of being happy right now. You don't have to wait for that future. Now, whatever it is in the circumstances now and in the future, there will be frustration and stress. This is the first noble truth. Whether you achieve your goal, you don't achieve your goal, we are all subject to frustration and stress. You can be the greatest engineer in the Southeast Asia, you will also probably have the greatest frustration and stress. You can be the greatest diagnostician in Malaysia, you are also going to have the frustration and stress that comes with it. It's only when we realize that you can be truly happy now. So, for example, when I tell my students, then they say, oh, I want to be this, I want to be that, I want to be a surgeon, I want to be a physician, I want to be that, I want to be that. And then when they actually pass their postgrad exams and they become surgeons and physicians and whatnot, and you ask them and then they look back and they say, actually, the happiest days of my life was when I was a student. I'm sure you hear that story all the time. But when they were students, they thought they're going to be very happy when they become a surgeon, a physician, an engineer, an architect. So let that happiness be found within you right now while you are pursuing your vision of the future. So the world tells you, follow your dreams. But Buddhism tells you to wake up, wake up, wake up. For many people, you are already the dream. Your life now is a dream. So you don't have to wait until another apparition appears for you to be happy. Now, all this leads to this very simple understanding that if you just keep on living in a hope or a dream, then that takes your attention away from the present. You must also be living in the here and the now and not tie your happiness to a future achievement. We are all human beings, so we can be happy even in this present moment. It's very sad when you tie your happiness to the achievement of some future goal. Then, as Ajahn Brahm always say, you are a human becoming. You are not a human being. And so remember, sometimes not getting what you want is a wonderful stroke of luck, as illustrated by the story of the farmer. Not getting what he wants is a wonderful stroke of luck. So not getting a job in the airline industry 6 months ago might have seemed like a disaster to some, but it's actually a wonderful stroke of luck, because the airline industry is going to be in the dumps for a long time. So practice non-attachment, realize impermanence, realize dukkha, and realize anatta. Anatta tells you that you are not in control. Realize that things do not always go your way, and that you can still be calm and develop stillness in your minds. All right, you have to be perseverant. You will plan, but above all, you must be flexible and willing to change. For life has these universal characteristics of ceaseless change, dukkha, and non-self. You simply cannot control it.
Whenever we do have any problems, we learn from them. Yes, we fall sometimes. We're not afraid of falling, because falling is learning. We fall forward. Yes, we fail, but then we learn how to do it better. Isn't it a shame that we're always so concerned what other people think of us? We become afraid of even talking to somebody and engaging with them just in conversation or helping them. Because of that fear of uncertainty, what would happen if I make a fool of myself? There's a nice little message in this. If you do make a fool of yourself and people laugh, well done. You've increased the happiness of the world. Right answers stop further exploration. Have you ever noticed the longer you look, the more you see? If you think this is a water bottle, there's a right answer here somewhere. You stop looking. You stop investigating. You stop digging deeper. You stop innovating. Never allow your learning to stand in the way of truth. They're human beings. They're not perfect. One of the wonderful sayings is, no one is perfect. Nobody is perfect.
So coming back, again, I would like to emphasize the important points. One, as a young person, as a youth, of course, you must have a direction in life. Of course, you must study hard. Of course, you must train in some profession which is marketable. Of course, you need to earn a living, for you need to support parents, spouse, children. You need to give them their best education. So you need to have goals. You need to have a certain vision of your future. That is a skillful means for us to do what we must do. But life is uncertain. Life is always changing. And there are many, many things in life which are beyond our control. We think we are in control, but the Buddha Dharma teaches us very clearly that for many things, you are not in control. The three universal characteristics of impermanence, that will give rise to instability. And the last few months of the pandemic has taught us a lot about instability. We think that life is good, but the common denominator for many of us is that there is stress, there is emotional trauma, there is suffering, both mental and physical. That is the common denominator of all of us. And finally, we think we are in control. No, it's anatta. You're not in control. You're not in control of your body. Neither are you even in control of your own mind, your own feelings, perception, let alone the external world. So when you realize all this, yes, we set goals, we set hopes, we have dreams, but you must be flexible to adapt these hopes and these dreams to the circumstances. Someone might say you have failed in your goal. Well, so what? I have changed my goal. Someone might say, hey, you're supposed to say you want to be this, but you're not this. Well, that was when I was 12 years old. When I was 12 years old, I might want to be Tarzan. But looking at the situation now, there are very few forests. Tarzan will probably starve to death. So it's simply not a pragmatic nor practical goal. So things change as our thoughts mature. And that is why we say you must be flexible. For not only does the external environment change, even the internal environment changes. And you must remember that we need not have to reach that goal or that dream to be happy. You can be equally happy even now without reaching that goal and that dream. If you do reach that goal and that dream, don't be too ecstatic too, because with that goal being achieved would come its hamper of joys and problems as well. So this is the realities of life. And the Buddha Dharma teaches us not dreams. The Buddha Dharma teaches us realities. So you must be able to deal with realities. And the ultimate dream, of course, is to have no dreams. This would be the ultimate. My dream is to have no further dreams or wishes. That means I'm perfectly content with my life. I'm perfectly content with everything. And remember the Dhammapada? Who is the richest man in the world? The richest man in the world is not Bill Gates, not Murdoch, not Li Ka-shing, not Jack Ma. The richest man in the world is the man who goes to sleep tonight content. He is the richest man in the world. So if you have no more further dreams because you are absolutely content with what you have, welcome. You have just become the richest man in the world. So I want to let you know that I do not see hopes and dreams as negative states. Please do not mistaken me. Hopes and dreams is certainly better than doom and gloom of a depressed person. But what I want to point out to you is do not be so attached to it that your life becomes a misery if that hope and dream is not attained. Always remember what the Buddha teaches, to live in the present moment, because this is the only moment that you're living. Live this present moment well. Study hard, study well, do your best, and the future will take care of itself. Remember the story of the farmer. Good, bad, who knows? Everything we can't predict with precision. Do not forget that doom and gloom can also be a possible future, but we label them as nightmares and nobody will invite me to ever talk about them. Now, life is but a dream for the dead. Some people live their whole lives in a dream. So the question for us as Buddhists is, we need to wake up. Are we living now? What do I mean when I say, are you living now? I want to ask back the youths a simple question. What is your hope and dream now? Is it, I hope to be filthy rich? Or I hope to be Bill Gates? Or I hope to be Li Ka-shing? Or what not? Well, yes, you can have that hope. Nothing wrong with it if you earn your living correctly and without harming anyone. But it is wise not to be too attached to that dream, because there are only that many Bill Gates, Robert Murdoch, and Li Ka-shings in the world. But what if your hope is, I hope that I can help beings, help my friend, my classmate, my fellow Dhamma family member here, or my own personal family, to have just a little bit less pain and suffering, to be a little bit more comfortable. Rather than I'll say, no, please don't let go of that dream. It is a right intention. It is a right thought. And it is certainly achievable for every one of us. Everyone. So can you have hopes, dreams, and desires without it arising from greed or craving? Well, this is where the Buddha's teachings come in. I repeat, can you have hopes, dreams, and desires without it arising from greed or craving? So now let's come back and be very clear. There is a clear distinction between tanha, which is in the second noble truth. The second noble truth says the cause of dukkha. Dukkha being emotional stress, suffering, emo, unhappiness, strains, physical pain, all these being listed as various aspects of dukkha. And the Buddha made it very clear in the second noble truth that the cause of this is an emotional state called tanha. Now, it is very important for your young people here to realize that tanha that you read in the second noble truth is an emotional state. Greed or craving is an emotional state. And the Buddha wants us to be able to look at that emotional state and still it. So there's a clear distinction between greed and chanda. Chanda is a wholesome or noble aspiration. So not all hopes and dreams are the same. Some are noble aspirations. So what do I mean? Well, let me give you an example. At the end of, for example, something good, like a Dhamma sharing, and we say, well, let us invite Sister Elizabeth to share merits and to make noble aspirations. You do not hear Sister Elizabeth going onto the stage and saying, sharing the Dhamma is a very meritorious deed. By this truth of this very meritorious deed, may I be very rich. May I find the richest boyfriend in Singapore. May I make crazy rich Buddhists look poor. You don't hear her say that because that would be tanha. That is a craving which arises from greed. It's an aim to self-gratification. Instead, you will hear Sister Elizabeth go up and say, by the truth of this Dhamma sharing, by the merits of these good deeds, may we be happy, may we be well, or if that is for somebody who is sick, may so and so recover, or if it is for the frontliners, may they be happy, may they be well, may they be protected, may they have good health, etc. That's a noble aspiration. It's not based on something selfish. So not all hopes and dreams are the same. And Venerable Sucitto summarized it by saying that you can summarize Dhamma training as a transformation of tanha, an emotional state based on greed and self-gratification, into chanda, noble, non-self-gratification, not egoistic aspiration. So they are different mental states. And in Buddhism, the desire for true well-being is Dhamma Chanda or Kusala Chanda. Dhamma Chanda is desire for what is truthful, what is right. Kusala Chanda, desire for what is wholesome, what is skillful. We use the short form Chanda to represent both. And again, I repeat, tanha, as in the second noble truth, is an emotional state. It is directed towards feelings, cravings that need to be satisfied. It leads to the seeking of objects, it can be smell, sense, taste, etc., which panders to self-interest, and it is supported and nourished by our ignorance. Chanda is directed towards benefit to one and all. It leads to you doing something, and it is founded on intelligence, reflection, and wisdom. So whatever it is, your chanda or whatever, it will not work unless you take action. Because this is a very foundation of Buddhist teaching. that if you want to change anything, it has to be action. It has to be karma. So if you have a noble aspiration, the surest way to make that noble aspiration come true is to actually live that aspiration. And here, before I proceed, I'll share with you something I teach my students very often. Most, if not all, of the students in my university's Clinical School Buddhist Society come from Chinese background. A few are Sri Lankans, a few are from other races, but by and large, most of them are Chinese. Some, as I said, are Indians, some are Sri Lankans. But almost everyone, even in the Sri Lankan tradition, they are familiar with the icon or the Bodhisattva of Kuan Yin. She is often represented as a Bodhisattva with 1,000 arms and 1,000 eyes. And the Chinese call her as Kuan Yin because she listens to the cries of the world. That is our icon of compassion. So I often teach my students, when you see your grandmother, you see your parents, they might be making offerings to this great Bodhisattva of compassion. And at a very fundamental, basic level, they are paying respect, they are praying to the Bodhisattva of compassion. They are praying to this Bodhisattva outside there who helps everyone. That's at a very fundamental level. At a slightly higher level of understanding, your parents, your grandparents are saying, I want to emulate what this Bodhisattva of compassion represents. 1,000 arms and 1,000 eyes to help the people who need help. That's at the second level. I want to emulate those qualities. And the third level, the highest level of understanding, is when Sister Jessie and Brother Chao Loi bows down in front of the beautiful Bodhisattva image at Hongming San with 1,000 arms and 1,000 eyes. They bow down to that image, they pay respect to that image, and deep in their hearts, they say, they know, they have that insight that I am that Bodhisattva of compassion. I am that vehicle for which people are to be helped. I am the one who is going to help them. You are the Bodhisattva of compassion. You are the means to which help is to be delivered. And here again, I reflect, it must be at least 15, if not 20 years ago, at Hongming San itself, when the teacher to His Holiness, the Dalai Lama himself was teaching. And they were doing that 1 million Om Mani Padme Hum chant. At the end of the teaching, at the end of the 3 days, when 1 million times that line was chanted, the great teacher asked the audience at the question and answer session. Sorry, someone asked the great teacher at the question and answer session, what am I saying? At the question and answer session, a member of the audience asked the great teacher, the teacher to the Dalai Lama himself. And the question was, where is the Bodhisattva of compassion that we just spent 3 days chanting Om Mani Padme Hum to? The great teacher, without even a blink in his eye, replied, he is in your mind. He is in you. You, in the 3 days of chanting 1 million times, is seeking to awaken that seed of compassion in you. You are seeking to be the Bodhisattva of compassion. And then the same person who asked that question asked a second question. If that is so, why do I need this icon in front of me? Any icon also will do to represent compassion. And the great teacher immediately replied, even again without blinking an eye, yes, he said, any icon will do, as long as it symbolizes compassion. Because that is only your hope, your goal, your dream. It is merely an icon. The apple is not the Mac computer. The apple is merely the icon of the computer. And then the person raised his hand this time, probably in frustration, and said, in that case, can I not make Coca-Cola symbol the icon? Well, you might have thought that the great teacher would be angry by now, but the great teacher said, without even a blink, oh yes, he said, Coca-Cola would be fantastic. If you can identify the Coca-Cola symbol as the icon of compassion, that is even better, because Coca-Cola icon is found everywhere, in every corner of Singapore, in every coffee shop, in every menu, in every bar, in everything. Then you'll be constantly reminded of the symbol of compassion. So I hope you realize that your hope, your dreams is an icon of what you wish to become in the future. And even the Bodhisattva of compassion is an icon for what you can become. And every time I read in Facebook, oh, Sister Jessie, Brother Chaloi had gone to distribute food to the old people at one certain silver zone or to one nursing home, I look at that and I said, this is the Bodhisattva of compassion. They are living metta karuna. They are not chanting it, they are not just wishing it, but they are living it. So a goal is just a goal. A goal is not action. Neither is a goal happiness. You have to live it. The Buddha's teachings helps us to live a life of the highest quality in whatever you want to do, dream about, and achieve. It aims to make you and I better people. So if I go to Brother Chao Loi's house and I see the icon, the Bodhisattva of compassion there, I know that when they look at it every day, they are not only just praying to an icon that will be like praying to the apple of Apple computer, they are actually using that computer. They're actually becoming that computer. So karma is an action, not a result. Vipaka is the result. The future is not set in stone. So you can have a dream, you can have a vision, you can have a hope, you can have an ambition, but it must not be set in stone. And you can change it, you can change the direction anytime you want. But let me hope, let me wish, let me dream that that direction is still a kusala, a wholesome direction. So the Buddha Dharma does not dictate, it doesn't judge, it puts how you wish to live your life squarely in your hands. If you want to be a wholesome person, you can be a wholesome person irrespective of whether you are a doctor, engineer, lawyer, etc. The Buddha Dharma merely teaches you that you must know yourself, you must know your environment, and then you can be the best. You have the skills to deal with a highly fluid world. And above all, the Buddha Dharma teaches you how to be happy while you are in that process of trying to achieve that noble goal for which you have set yourself. This is my last slide. What is the meaning of life? Before long, life ends in death. That teaches us anicca. That teaches us anatta. Look around you. In the last few months, how many hundreds of thousands of people have died? Whatever is worthwhile and good should be done without delay, because ultimately, it is not what you say you believe in, it is not who you pray to, it is not what is written in your IC card, it is not what is stated as your official religion. All that has no meaning. Ultimately, what is important is what have you done. That is what is important. Even if you have set goals, dreams, etc., ultimately is in that pursuit of that dream. What have you done? Who is your creator? Your creator is your karma. You are born of your karma. You are the heir of your karma. You are created by your karma. So whatever is good, be it so small as a small, tiny deed. That should be done as you walk, as you progress towards whatever you hope or wish to be. And that is the meaning of life. Make life better for yourself and for another person. So this is my last slide. Elizabeth, I'm ending here. I am passing over back to you now. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Wong, for your such a nice and inspiring talk. I think I'm just like looking at the videos and all the photos, like very nice. Okay, and is there any questions from anyone? You guys can put it in the comments below, like at the group chat comments, if there's any questions, or you can actually unmute your mic and actually speak through the microphone to ask Dr. Wong any questions.
Now, Elizabeth, there are some very senior people in this group here with me now. People who have achieved their goals, achieved their ambitions, and they have got much wisdom from years of learning the Dhamma, much wisdom from facing the harsh realities of life. I'm sure they will be more than happy to share some of their life experiences with the youths here. All right? I lead a very boring life as a teacher and a doctor. You know, every day we do the same thing. Every day we go there, we teach. But there are many people here who are in the business circle, and they will have really seen a lot in life. And I'm sure if the youths have any question, I can share it, anticipate the questions to the right people. Nobody has any question, children? And maybe I can ask.
Doctor,
Oh, hi. Hello.
I want to ask, but she's shy.
Shy, yeah. Never mind. What you do is you type out the question to send to us, okay? If you're shy, just type it out.
You just ask her. Okay.
Okay? If you're shy, just send in the chat group. Don't worry.
Can I just ask now?
Yeah, you can ask.
Of course.
First of all, Anubandana for sharing brother Dr. Wong. My question is, you said instead of having like a fixed dream, you should be opening your eyes to see all kinds of opportunities out there. But then it's like, how can you achieve your dreams and goals without being attached to that goals? Because by not attaching to that goals, then it seems like you have no direction and there's no focus to whatever you're doing. Am I
Well, you have a goal, Selvi, but you have to be flexible because circumstances change. I'm not saying you do not have a goal. You have a goal, but circumstances change. I mean, if your goal is to be Bill Gates, oh, that's a very unrealistic goal. I mean, how many Bill Gates are there in the world? So you may not end up as Bill Gates. You might end up as another businessman, but that doesn't mean you're a failure. But if you see yourself as a failure because I did not become Bill Gates, and I will only be happy if I become Bill Gates, then your life is going to be a prison. You're literally going to be imprisoned by your ambitions. And the thing is that we do not know how the world is changing. So while you can set many things up, I mean, a lot of boys here might want to have been pilots, as I said, but if your ambition is to be a pilot now, are you very cham leo leh? You cannot even feed your family now. I tell you, all the poor pilots are getting retrenched one by one. Really jialat. So if you are going to say, I'm going to enter a course which teach me to be a pilot, then maybe you seriously have to reconsider other options, at least for the time being. So what I'm saying is that no, you do not give up your dreams, but you cannot be too attached to them. Because good, bad, who knows? I mean, as I said, if you ask everybody in that interview before med school, and we all have interviews before med school, so all the students come prepared. They go to some website somewhere and they read up all the standard questions asked at interviews. So you sit there and you ask, and tell me, why do you want to enter medical school? And almost without fail, everybody wants to save the world. By the time they become a medical student, they realize they can barely save themselves. But then never mind. They say when I graduate, I will be very happy. And then when they graduate, and then they are very happy for about the whole of 3 months. And then the instant they start working, they realize they are at the bottom, the one cell amoeba for which 1,000 other organisms are stepping on this low life form called a house doctor. And then by the 3rd month, they say, oh, why did I take up medicine? You know, that's the most miserable job on earth, now made worse by COVID-19. So what I mean is that you cannot know the future. You only know what you know now. And what you know now may change. So yes, have dreams, Selvi. I'm not saying you do not have dreams, but you have to be realistic as well. Do not be zhap. You know, the Chinese say, you know, so attached, you know. If I don't have that, then I want to be a Korean actress. Or I want to be, let me think of something really, really rare. I want to be somebody who is like, who's a very famous violinist that you always see playing in the subways of New York just to frighten people. There's one man, Joshua Bell or something like that. All right, he's fantastic, no doubt. And so I want to be like that. But how many people are going to be like that? All right, so we have to be practical. Here, I want to invite Brother S.K. Lim. Brother S.K. Lim is a very good Dhamma brother of mine in Johor Bahru. He's a consultant engineer. Humble background, went all the way, runs his own company. Of course, years ago, he had his dreams, he had his vision, and now maybe he can share with us because he's in the business line. I'm not in the business line. I'm very jalat in a teaching line, earn fixed salary every month. Brother SK, can you share your wisdom with this young girl?
Thank you, Dr. Wong. First of all, my goal when I was a student is to become a doctor.
Oh.
and end up becoming an engineer.
Okay.
I have my goal set to it, you know, and when I come to HSC, I got an E for biology. I got E for biology, and that set my tone, and that's my goal. But like anything else, I think it's actually very good to set goals. I mean, you set goals, but like we say, we do not be too attached to them because along the way, things changes. Things changes, just like what Dr. Wong has mentioned about nowadays pilots not being in demand. Having goals itself will set us on the path, but we must know that sometimes the path change. As long as the path is towards the noble truth, the truth of the Dharma, we have the practice of our Dharma in us, I think then things will go right. Now, as I'm also has been as a businessman, and today I'm 60 years old. In actual fact, I told myself that I'll retire at the age of 60. That is my goal to retire at the age of 60. Look at what happened. The virus, the pandemic comes in. Can I retire now? Well, I can still retire, but I look at it differently. I managed to let go. Now, we also need a bit of contentment in our life. If you have the contentment in your life, I think it's easier for us to let go. We have a goal, we have to achieve something, and if you're happy, we let go. Because the more, if I have to pursue further, it's not necessary I'm going to be happy. And for me, I think I put in the other part about in a chat is gratitude. I think whenever that we comes in the big I that the doctor is talking about, I think I always evoke the feeling of gratitude, because whatever your life is today, you have to show gratitude to all the people that have comes in to help us. Just like this virus, I think if you see, even I'm talking about the frontliner, like the medical doctors and the healthcare people. But what about the people that just keep your environment clean? We must have a gratitude, because without them, imagine for the last 2 months, we will be living in a dump. So aren't our life good, happy, good, bad, who knows? Thank you.
Thank you, Brother SK. Maybe we can get a Singaporean brother Brother Chow Loi, where's Brother Chow Loi? Where's Brother Chow Loi? Chow Loi, please switch on your camera and unmute yourself. Brother Chow Loi is very inspiring to me because I always see him on Facebook bringing food to the elderly folks in the silver zones and the homes. And he and his wife contribute a lot of their weekends just doing voluntary work for which they get absolutely no pay. In fact, you've got to pay money to do it, You pay money, to do it. You don't get any pay, you pay money to do it. And yet, week after week, I see Brother Chow Loi and Sister Jessie do it. So surely they too must have a hope, a dream, an ambition. If not, why are they doing it? Some people who may not think along the same line might even say, 傻佬嚟嘅. A honky might say, 冇着數嘅，傻佬嚟嘅. Even though every week go and give like that. No end to it, isn't it? I mean, the number of people, let's be honest, who need help is so many. How many can Chow Loi help? How many can Jessie help? But that's irrelevant. The point is that they are doing their little bit. Okay, maybe we can ask them to share. After all, here we are trying to inspire the youth. We are trying to tell them something about hopes, ambitions, dreams, our aims in life. So Chow Loi, Jessie, where are you? Chow Loi and Jessie?
Yeah, Dr. Wong. Yeah, thanks
yes,
for
yes.
asking us to say a few words. Well, we just want to share that. I mean, we are considered very fortunate as compared to a lot of people. So what we are doing is that while we have the time and a little bit of money and we are able to help, so we just do what we can to help. And in doing so, we just feel happy, and then we just feel that there's meaning in life rather than sitting at home and doing nothing, or maybe can do other things at home. But we think we should go out, and while we are able and we are still healthy, why not we contribute our time to a more meaningful thing that we can do and we are able to do. So that is what we are doing now.
Okay, so I'm Jessie here, everybody. How are you? Can you see me?
Yes.
So my feeling is just do it. When the opportunity arrives, when you have the time, you think you can do, just do it. Thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Wong, I have a question. I have a question here. Is that we all have hopes. And in times like this, whereby, let's say we have a hopes to help, but our hopes, we are now being confined, and we cannot do what we want to do now. So it's like hopeless. There's a hope there, but we cannot execute, and we can't get out of the house to go and spend our time and to help others. So in your view, so what can we do now? The minimum that we can do while we are at home. We pray, or we chant, or we share merits. Maybe Dr. Wong, you can advise.
Okay. Just let me get a clip to show you. Share screen.
COVID-19.
I'm just showing one or two slides from here. Okay. As I said, the things you must utilize now, whether you're young, whether you're old, whether you're my age, is you see the Four Noble Truths.
Yes.
All of us see the Four Noble Truths. The COVID-19 pandemic had made it crystal clear. The first truth, the second truth, the third, the fourth, all crystal clear. We live our life utilizing the four Brahma Viharas of Metta, Karuna, Mudita, Upekkha. But as I always say, yes, you can chant the Metta Sutta, you can do Metta meditation. That creates the mindset, that creates the mood, that creates a mind that is saturated with Metta. But that has to be translated to action. Ultimately, you still need karma to make things change. The 8 winds of change: gain, loss, praise, blame. These things are happening to every one of us now. And the Buddha said a well trained disciple will not get too happy when things are good. Neither will he be too depressed when things are bad, because he knows that these things are all impermanent, these things are all not self. The three characteristics of anicca, dukkha, anatta, you're seeing right in your face right now. The law of karma, this is where we come in. And of course, mindfulness. So metta karuna must be in action, not just words. Chanting gives you a state of mindfulness. It reminds you of the Buddha's teaching. Metta meditation creates that mindset. But the Buddha, remember, taught us when he described metta, he described metta as the love of a mother for her only child. Remember? Metta Sutta. The love of a mother for her only child. But have you ever seen any mother who only looks at a child every day and say, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you from morning to evening? The child is going to starve to death. So the mother doesn't express a lot of that deep, unconditional love by just saying, I love you, I love you. In fact, in Asian culture, we don't. All right? Maybe your generation, but certainly not my generation. If my generation, my parents hardly ever say that word. But what they show as metta is in what they do, their sacrifices, their willingness to do whatever they can for our happiness. Because to them, that is important. So no mother just keeps saying, I love you to her child. Her love is expressed in every bit of her action from dawn to dusk, and even when the child is asleep. That is metta. If a mother can say, let me take the pain for my child, the mother will do it. That is metta. So while yes, Chaloi, we need to chant, we need to pray, we need to have all kinds of things to build up that mood of metta, ultimately it still translates to action. And while the scale is massive, and while we do not have 1,000 arms and 1,000 eyes, we have one pair. And this one pair is enough. I kept sharing with brothers and sisters at Metta Lodge and in the surrounding areas. I said, now the pandemic is bad, many people are affected, there's a lot of suffering. Suffering can be on a massive level where people have no food to eat, lost their jobs, or suffering can be at a lower level where students are stuck. So for us here in JB, I identify only a very small specific niche. And because I teach, I know who are the students, both outstation and local, who are stuck in JB. They can't go anywhere because of the movement lockdown. Yeah, by next Monday, Brother SK, they can move already. Okay, so next Monday, some of them are traveling back home. But many of them have been stuck here for 2 months. And so, you know, we, the Dhamma brothers and sisters, not only in JB, but even in Singapore, have actually approached me and told me and say, if they need any help whatsoever, please give them. And there are even Dhamma brothers and sisters who bang in money into my account and say, Dr. Wong, please use this money. If they need anything, get it for them. And so while I regularly do check with them and say, do you need anything? Most of them say, no, we are well supported by our parents. We have enough this, we have enough that. But what they don't have is that they do not have the comfort of home. They're all alone in a condominium that is mostly deserted because a lot have gone home. So what I really got was just get the brothers and sisters at Metta Lodge who live in that vicinity. And I told them, and there's one sister who lives very near, I told her, but you cook every day, and every time you cook some food that is nice, just cook a little bit extra and send to one different student. And that is what she has been doing. And the student sends back a thank you note, because you can talk about metta from morning to evening in Dhamma class and in university Dhamma classes, but one single act like that touches the student more than any words of metta that we teach. Brother Jusing, for example, this morning sent food to all of us who are his friends. At the same time, he sent food for the students as well. And so he asked me, please send this to the students. And that, while it's not going to make them eat like a king, at least give them that sensation that somebody cares and is thinking about them. So in Malaysia, we can travel to get food or deliver food within 10 kilometers. So it's not that we are stuck in our house and we cannot move, we can move. And so from me, where I stay to where they stay is only about 4 kilometers. So I can travel and send them the food. In fact, after this sharing with you, I'm sending the dim sum that Brother Jusing bought and the bak chang that I ordered for the students. So we need to live the Dhamma. And you all have seen on the internet the role reversal. Instead of people sending food to the monasteries, now the monasteries are giving out food to the poor. I'm very touched by this when I saw the clip from Thailand of the monasteries giving out food for all the poor people. They're using their resources to supply food and even money to help the poor tide this period over, because a lot of people have lost their jobs. So this is important, and I want to share with you finally this. Yes, the message by His Holiness the Dalai Lama when he was asked to give a message for the COVID-19 pandemic. He began by saying prayer is not enough. Yeah, it's true, you can pray all you want, but that's not going to change anything. Prayer is not enough, you need to act. And the Dalai Lama said this, and I repeat, sometimes friends ask me to help with some problem in the world using some magical powers. I always tell them that the Dalai Lama has no magical powers. If I did, I would not feel pain in my legs or a sore throat. We are all the same as human beings, and they experience the same fear, the same hope, the same uncertainties. From the Buddhist perspective, every sentient being is acquainted with suffering and the truths of sickness, old age, and death. But as human beings, we have the capacity to use our minds to conquer anger and panic and greed. In recent years, I've been stressing emotional disarmament. Try and see things realistically and clearly, without the confusion of fear or rage. If a problem has a solution, we must work to find it. If it does not, we need not waste time thinking about it. See how practical and how pragmatic is the Dalai Lama's advice. All right. And he said, we Buddhists believe the entire world is interdependent, and that's why you have universal responsibility. The outbreak of this terrible coronavirus has shown us that what happens to one person will soon affect every other person. But it also reminds us that what you do as a person will also affect everyone else. So whether you are able to do a lot or you're not able to do a lot, the point is you must try to do something rather than do nothing. And so even for Brother Chow Loi, even if you cannot leave your house at all, but you can, because I know in Singapore you are allowed to leave your house to go marketing, to buy food, to buy medicine. You all need to just identify one person in your vicinity who needs help. Just one, and help that one person. That is better than you and I going around talking about metta and more metta and more metta. A single act of metta and karuna in action, I think, teaches people more about what the Buddha taught us about metta and karuna. So do all the good that you can within your means. Surely, for example, I do not expect the young people here to have the financial means to do a lot. But what you can do is like Brother SK there, okay? Just help Tzu Chi to stitch or to pack the PPEs. Brother SK and his wife has been helping Tzu Chi Foundation in Malaysia pack and make personal protective equipment. And because of all these NGOs in Malaysia doing this, actually Malaysia is pretty well off. No Malaysian doctor serving in the front line has to suffer the indignity of working with only a mask and no personal protective equipment. While a country as rich as the United Kingdom, my colleagues there in the front line are only going to work with a mask, no PPE. Nobody is supplying, nobody is making. But here, that one doesn't require your money. All it requires is now you're under circuit breaker, you're sitting at home watching Netflix. Well, as you watch the Netflix, help them pack the PPE, and you're already doing some good. All right, so I hope that answered Brother Chow Loi's question. All right, Brother Chow Loi?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Wong. What my wife do is that she would still give to the security guard next condo some drinks or buy them some snacks, biscuits, and our own cleaners downstairs morning, my wife like to give them something.
Yeah.
Giving whatever fruits or biscuit or just a drink.
Yeah,
or whatever. We offer whatever we can, or we cannot go out to. Yeah.
Just show that we care. Basically, we care. That's
Yeah,
it.
that's all we can do now. Yeah.
That's all you can do. I mean, on a bigger scale, you can volunteer with Tzu Chi to make PPE, or you can still go to the silver zones. I'm sure there are a lot of elderly people who are very lonely in there. You know, but you have been doing that all these years. No one can ask for anything more. You have already done that for so many years. So you are actually the symbol of Bodhisattva of compassion for me.
Thank you, Dr. Wong. I think because of time constraint, we'll just limit to one more last question. This question comes from Dika. Hi, Dr. Wong. During this lockdown period, some of us might experience some loss of motivation to study or work. How would you advise us to this sloughness? Thank you.
Sloth,
Nurse.
sloth and torpor, sensual gratifications, doubt, restlessness. These are all emotional states that we typically associate as hindrances to meditation. But I want to let you know that these so-called hindrances are not just hindrances to meditation. They are hindrances to life. Life, not just meditation. All right? While we typically associate it as a hindrance to progress in meditation, and that we see the stilling of the hindrances as the attainment of jhana, you must realize that these hindrances, these negative emotional states, are actually negative emotional states to our life as well. So if you say, yeah, during this period, every day I just sit there, munch peanut and watch Netflix, and not doing anything, well, the first thing to do is to cut your subscription to Netflix. Okay? Cut your subscription to Netflix. Be grateful you got so many blessings, and then every day set a deadline. Set a deadline and a target. Okay, I know you don't have Netflix, but you still bought the TV box from Johor Bahru and you get access to all the Korean movies with all the languages from this show and that show. And you're not allowed to watch this show or that show until you have done something. So you can only associate it with the ability to do something. Then only you're allowed to watch one show. So that ties it to the fact that you must do something before you're allowed to watch. You know, I'm sounding like a primary school teacher, you know. This is what the primary school teacher or primary school children are. Okay, yes, you can eat this bar of chocolate, but before you eat this bar of chocolate, you must read chapter 1 to chapter 3. Okay, that's what I'm exactly telling you. Isn't it? So Dika, you can watch your Netflix, the Eternal Monarch or something like that, the very popular film, a series that's on now. But you can only do that after you have attained. Today, clean up the house. 2, cook for your parents or your brother or your whatever. 3, whatever the target you set. Then after that, you can watch one episode. Okay, Dika, I think we have to realize that life will go on after this pandemic is over. So if you start to develop sloth, and this sloth carries over into post-pandemic, then that will not be very good. Then this negative hindrance would continue. Okay, take this home point from me. The 5 hindrances are not just hindrances in meditation. They are negative states in our life. Okay, so whether you're restless or whether you're sloth and torpor or whether you have doubt or whatever, it is an emotional hindrance to our function in everyday life. Dika, have I answered your question?
Thank you, Dr. Wong. Yes.
Okay. It must be like Yoda telling our Luke Skywalker lah. You say, look at me. You think my size is important? All right?
Oh yeah, one more thing, Dr. Wong. Maybe not just about laziness, but rather like we don't have even any motivation to do. Like you suddenly don't want to study not because of being lazy of doing another thing, but because of these situations, some people might just lost the entire motivation to do.
Now you need to have a group that will help you. So go on Zoom, find a group of people who are progressing very well, and then you will panic when you see them.
Thank you. Can I just make a comment on that?
Yes, of course, brother.
Dika, I think when these are all negative energy, like what Dr. Wong says, And actually, negative energy actually it actually eats into your you weakens you there, and that's why you feel laziness and everything creeping in. I think the best thing to fight against all this negative energy is to imbue it with positive energy. And positive energy is just like eating a bar of chocolate. You can actually start doing things that you're happy about. And once you do that, I think things will get better. Things will get better. And of course, in reflection, in meditation, you meditate all the four Brahma Vihara. That's one way of doing that. And then that will probably get your energy back.
Thank you, Brother SK.
Okay, Elizabeth?
Thank you, Dr. Wong. Before we leave, I think Dita has some announcement to make. So, yeah, Dita, hello.
Sorry, actually, yeah, if because after this we will be having connect circle and the discussion, right? So if you are youth age 17 until 25, then you can join our Zoom meeting.
I sent the link already.
The link is on the chat, so I'll see you in the link. Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Wong.
Bye. We shall leave now. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Dr. Wong.
Thank you, Dr. Wong.
Thank you, Dr. Wong.
Thank you, Dr. Wong.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Suki Hontu, may you be well and
Bye.
happy.
Thanks, sister.
And stay calm.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Bye.